Everyone knows about the resorts of Europe, South America, South Asia and so on. But what about a resort in Russia? In the country's highest mountain region, the city of Kislovodsk, home of Narzan, a mineral water with a very pungent odor, yet incredible benefits. That's why the city is called Kislovodsk, because Kisl means sour in Russian and Vodsk means water. So it translates as sour water, but beyond the water. You will learn with Olympic champions train here, experience the power of nature, learn about the Caucasian people, who they are and what they're like, explore studied Caucasian cuisine for foreigners, and finally, why people even take Narzan baths here. Let's get started. Of course, it will be a sin not to mention the story of the city's founding and the founders of Russian culture who visited, but few people are interested. I hope I'm wrong. So, feel too free to skip to the chapter on Narzan. The city was founded in 1803 and immediately became a resort. Parks and other amenities were built, thanks to the wonderful air and the high Caucasian mountains, all of which promoted health. Later, almost all Russian writers come here. Some were exiled for their political views, while others come for inspiration. Lev Tolstoy, Anton Chekhov, Maxim Gorky, Vladimir Korolenko, D.N. Mamin Sibiryak and Ayos Pushkin. I can make a video about Pushkin if you are interested. Now it's much more interesting. Narzan is a carbonated water found in springs in Kislovodsk, and naturally people began extracting it and use it for their own purposes. It's considered medicinal and general super duper water because it contains a shitload of useful minerals, salts and so on down the list, which gives it a pungent smell and taste, but it improves almost all systems in the body. People who were sick or in modern terms depressed were even sent to the water, and they actually felt better. Now about the use of this water. First of all, they drink it very much. I drank 6 or 9 glasses of Narzan here every day. After the cross-country run, at the lunch and in the evening in the Narzan gallery, where 3 types of Narzan are presented: sulfate, dolomite and mixed, but the most useful is considered to be sulfate warm. That's why it's the most disgusting. There's also wild Narzan baths here. Just imagine, in Cheboksary 1 liter of Narzan costs 3000 rubles, equals $2.5, and here there are 200-liter baths for 1000 rubles, about $8, which would cost me 16,000 rubles, equals $600. By the way, since I started talking about money, if you are from America or from some other country where the wealth is the same as in America, then you will be in chocolate in Kislovodsk, and in principle in Russia. Here food is very cheap, housing and restaurants. A trip for 3.5 people to the best restaurant where you will simply overeat and drink alcohol, it will be no more than $85. Let's go back. And since we started talking about restaurants, here's my top 3. First, this is Kombinat, a fairly used restaurant, just a wonderful restaurant where I got poisoned by oysters half a year ago, but everything else is just excellent. The second restaurant is Pepe. A more family restaurant and just as delicious. The third, Kebab House, is number 1 excellent kebab, but some dishes can quickly get old. And you can also note the street food, it's better than any coffee shop, especially Soviet ice cream. Let's get back to the topic of Narzan. There are several baths you can visit here. There's a central bath, almost Soviet style. Everything in the city reeks of the Soviet era. Every second person here lived under the Soviet era, where you won't be given swimming drinks and will lie naked. The more modern baths located in the spa center, where you will get better service, will give you swimming drinks. In my opinion, the Narzan is even more concentrated. That's easy to tell by the bubbles and the smell. The more of the two components, the better. In summary, Narzan is probably the thing I will miss most, and probably the only thing. Sports is a very important part of Kislovodsk. There are a ton of athletes here. The higher you go in the mountains, the the more runners there are. For example, in the Valley of Roses, it's impossible not to meet runners. This is understandable, since some of Russia's best athletes train here. I will explain why there are high altitudes here. First of all, at sea level, approximately 1216 meters, at the Valley of Roses, where athletes train. The air is thin and accordingly it's harder to breathe, which trains athletes even more, which then during competitions they become much more resilient than others. The air here is also fresh and unpolluted. It's as clean as possible because cars don't come here, only electronic cars, and the entire enterprise is located very far away. All this gives results to Russian athletes. And by the way, let's run together to the Valley of Roses and see how hard it will be. I started from the center square and run up. In general, there's a very steep climb here, as much as 200 meters in height. Then I calmly run along the asphalt path and go to a strong slope. Running becomes really difficult. Then an even stronger slope where you really feel the force of gravity. Then the path wind and we run to the Valley of Roses. Now I feel short of breath and the thin air. But we can't go even higher to the cable car. But we still to climb about 18 meters. That's the maximum we can reach. This cable car leads to a small sports center for athletes. The altitude is already 1500 meters and this is where still is temperate. But the descent back wasn't as difficult. It took half as long as the ascent. I also want to talk about the people who inhabit this area, because this is the Caucasus and Caucasians live here. The stereotype of Caucasian is a dark-haired, thick-bearded, muscular guy, and yes, there are many of them here. I've collected quite a few stories with the people from the Caucasus, and the most important thing I can highlight is the extremely sincere and humanitarian people. For example, when my dad and I went to the market on our first day to fix my return backpack, no one we approached was willing to help. When we went to a shoemaker who repairs shoes, and it turns out backpacks are ours. He fixed the zipper for free. We paid him, of course, and he was a little upset that we give him money, because he did it wholeheartedly for free. In such cases, you have to hit your heart with your first and speak from the heart. That's the custom here. Overall, I liked the people. Trip summary. If you're not from Russia and not a fan of culture or anything directly related to Kislovodsk, then don't go. There are a huge number of much colorful places to relax. There's no nightlife here, nothing to do if you can't enjoy nature and the weather, like me. And what's most depressing is the Soviet style rent in every little detail, and the pensioners, of whom there's a majority. And if you do decide to go, then autumn and spring are the brilliant time to Kislovodsk. Not too cold and not too hot. But I have a funny story. When I first came here 6 months ago, it was abnormally cold and even snowed, which never happened at that time before. Bye bye everyone!